This is a deck tech for my new Temur Elder Dragon deck, based off of Prismari the Inspiration and Quandrix the Proof. And I chose Iroh Grand Lotus to be the commander that unites the three colors. It's a good choice because the deck has a heavy focus on instants and sorceries, so being able to give those flashback from my graveyard can be very useful. Alright, so knowing that I want to get value out of these two cards, I'm going to play a lot of instants and sorceries, and the quicker I can get these two cards out, the better. So green is going to have a lot of help with ramping. Blue is going to have a lot of help with drawing cards. Red will help with the finishers, and blue has just a lot of good late game inevitability stuff. So we'll just start from the top. Prismari the Inspiration, Quandrix the Proof, and then of course the commander. And then I got two other dragons, one being Miriam Sentinel Worm. If I happen to play this before I cast Quandrix or Prismari, I'll be able to get two of them in play, in which case I'll be able to double up on the triggers. Stormbreath Dragon. This is a pretty good finisher. I like the fact that the monstrosity does deal damage to each opponent for the number of cards in their hand. And this is a pretty good non-legendary creature that I can potentially make a lot of copies of and then just close out the game. So I got those dragons. I also have about 5 elves. Priest of Titania for mana. Formidable Speaker in order to tutor up one of the dragons. Oracle of Moldiah helps with ramp. Bloodbraid Elf synergizes well with the value part of the deck. In one card, you get to cast 2 spells. Casting multiple spells will then help with generating a higher storm count for Prismari. Nissa Resurgent Animist. Because I do play a lot of ramp spells, I'm able to get multiple lands to enter play in one turn. So I am able to get that second trigger. So not only the first one you get mana from, but the second one you get to reveal an elf, which could be one of these 5, or one of these 2 changelings. Chomping Changeling, Mutable Explorer. That's a disenchant. This adds a Mutavault token. And then I also play 1 elemental, Lumra Bellow of the Woods, which is another ramp spell. But it being an elemental, you can get it from one of the Nissa Resurgent Animist triggers. So on to the ramp spells that I'm playing. Of course, we got Lumra, Ground Chuck, and Dirtbag. It's a 6 mana, 8/8 trample, and then whenever I tap a land for mana, I add 1 green. So having this in play is effectively doubling the amount of mana that my lands produce, and that can help give me enough mana to cast a lot of spells in one turn. Ice-Till Explorer, it's ramp. It is land recursion from the graveyard. It helps me fill up my graveyard by milling. Basically does it all. Studious First Year, it's 2 spells in 1 card, so it helps with Storm, and it's just a rampant growth, so it's just some ramp. Explore, it's a cantrip, play another land, so Cultivate, a 2 for 1, you get 1 land in play, 1 in hand. Planar Engineering, sack 2 lands, find 4 basics. Encroaching Dragonstorm, 4 mana, you get 2 lands, and then because I do play effectively 4 dragons and plus 2 changelings, I'm able to bounce it to my hand and then replay it, so it's good long-term value. Nissa's Renewal, you get 3 basic land cards, and you gain 7 life. So that's the top end of the ramp. Let's go over just the artifacts real quick. Soul Ring for fast mana, Mox Diamond, fast mana, Mox Jasper, kind of slow fast mana because I do need a dragon. And the Ooze, which is going to be for graveyard hate, and then it can help with getting those mutagen tokens as well to pump up some of my green creatures in the meantime until we get to the top end of the deck. Let's look at some blue card draw. Ancestral Visions. If you Cascade into this, you'll be able to cast it since it has 0. Otherwise, it's just a very slow Ancestral Recall. Preordain, just a random cantrip spell. Flow State, a nice 2-for-1, as long as you have an instant or sorcery in the graveyard already. Mathemagics, this is a good finisher for the late game when I have access to a lot of mana. You know, you might need to do something like X equals 6 or 7, probably 7 based off of unless your opponent already has drawn a lot of cards, because you're going to want to make them draw, I guess, their whole deck. So 128 if you do X equals 7, and then I think 64 if it's just X equals 6. So Frantic Search, very good for Storm, since you're able to untap lands. It's card disadvantage, but at the same time, because it synergizes so well with Storm, I'm willing to play it. Stock Up, a very good 2-for-1. Guided Passage, 3 mana, draw 3. Now, it is the worst 3 in the deck, but I enjoy playing these types of cards because depending on which opponent you choose, maybe they are willing to give you a good creature or maybe even a good non-creature card. Just depends on the state of the game. But like I said, I enjoy playing this because, number one, it forces your opponent to think, but it can also create situations where maybe they want to help you out. Perhaps even give you a 5-0 split for Fact or Fiction. Not likely, but you never know. Archmage Emeritus. It's like a Beast Whisperer for instants and sorceries, so it fits well in the deck. Rite of Replication. For 9 mana, I get to make 5 tokens of any target creature. Which, if I'm going to make a token in my deck, it'll probably be Stormbreath Dragon. Could be Chomping Changeling. Maybe even Mutable Explorer. Nothing too crazy, unless I get Stormcatch Mentor. Could be a good target if I wanted to further reduce the cost of my instants and sorceries. Alright, some of the red spells. I got Dragon Master Outcast. Since I am ramping lands, this is just a nice way to have sustained creatures late game. Lightning Bolt, very classic card. Tablet of Discovery. This is a ramp spell, but it can also replace itself, as long as you have the ability to play whatever it milled that turn. If you play it too early, there's a chance that you might mill something that you can't afford to cast, but not a big deal, because this deck does have some recursion stuff from the graveyard. Improvisation Capstone. This card is just so good in the deck. It's a big mana spell, but being able to paradigm it every single turn means that from there on out, you're going to have tremendous card advantage. You're going to have Storm advantage as well, since at the beginning of your turn, you're going to be casting spells for free. So before you even spend any mana on your following turns, you're going into turns with, potentially multiple spells cast before you even cast your own spell. All right, some of the blue-red splash. Stormcatch Mentor, Haste Prowess, and then Cost Reducer. Excessive Iteration. It's a 2 mana 2-for-1. Prismari Charm, a versatile spell, mainly just a bounce spell, but potentially you can just cycle it to do Surveil 2, draw a card, or you can maybe kill 1 or 2 targets with a ping. Traumatic Critique. This card is, at worst, if it gets cascaded into, it's a draw 2, discard 1, which is not bad. Not great, but it's not bad. And then if you have mana to sink into it, it can be a removal spell where you get to also draw 2, discard a card. So I like it. VV Ornadir, and this is a finisher, definitely the best finisher in the deck. It's pretty ridiculous. Adding a bunch of mana, pinging everyone, getting very large quickly. Prismari command, kill an artifact, shock a target, draw 2, discard 2, or create a treasure token. And you can only choose 2 of them, but it's good enough that it's going to stay in there for now. This might get switched out for maybe a lower costing green spell that might have both enchantment and artifact destruction. So I haven't really decided on it yet, but this is probably one of the last cards that are in the deck, so it's going to be the first to go. Resonating Loot, 4 mana artifact that allows my lands to tap for 2 mana of any one color if it's spent for casting instants or sorceries. And then as long as you have 7 or more cards in your hand, you can tap it to draw a card. This card is insane. Alright, on the green-red, we got Manamorphose, just a nice storm spell. Toph, Hard-Headed Teacher. You get a discard a card to return an instant or sorcery from your graveyard to your hand. And then from there on out, whenever I cast a spell, I get an Earthbend 1. So a little bit of inevitability. Escape to the Wilds. It's a 5 mana ramp spell. I consider it a 5 mana ramp spell that draws me cards. Now you only can play it until the end of your next turn, but 5 mana and draw 5, I'll take that all day, every day. Alright, now the green-blue ramp spells. It's going to be Embrace the Paradox, instant speed, draw 3, put a land into play tapped. Planner Genesis, 2 mana instant, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You can put a land from among them tapped, or you can just put 1 of those cards into your hand, and then the rest go on the bottom. So it's like an impulse, and it's also like a rampant growth. It just depends on what you see on the top 4. Quandrix Apprentice. This has Magecraft of casting or copying an instant or sorcery. You get a look at the top 3. If one of them is a land, put it into your hand. So this will ensure that you hit your land drops. Growth Spiral, 2 mana instant cantrip, and you can put a land into play untapped. Mind into Matter. This is the one card you really don't want to hit off of a Cascade, because if you do, all it really says is put a 0 mana artifact or a land into play tapped. But let's assume that you actually have it in your hand and you're able to cast it. If you have, ideally you're going to have 9 mana so that you can at least put a 7 cost card into play. Now you might want to cast it for more if you have more mana, but as long as you can get some value out of it, it's going to be a good card. Draw X cards and then put a permanent into play tapped. Iroh, Nature's Wrath. Just a ramp spell, but can, as long as you can escape it later in the game, it turns into a threat. Eureka Moment, a 4 mana, draw 2, put a land into play, instant. Proctor's Gaze, bounce a non-land permanent to their hand, and then ramp a land. Lessons from Life, 4 mana, draw 3, ramp a land, tapped. And then onto like the blue power cards. Cyclonic Rift, bounce everything that my opponents control. Season of Weaving, a versatile card that can copy some creatures. It can bounce non-land, non-token permanents to their owner's hand. Or you can even just draw cards. So I like the fact that you can just choose whichever you want for the particular situation at hand. Time Warp, definitely the best card that you can cast with Storm, because being able to take extra turns is pretty nice. Time Spiral gives good inevitability. It's kind of funny when you do have a Storm count, but it's just such a very good card in the deck. Spirit, Water Revival, and Wisdom of Ages. These are both kind of just inevitability cards. One of them returns all the instants and sorceries from my graveyard to my hand, no max hand size. And then the other is a shuffle graveyard into the library, draw 7, no max hand size. So, and then all we have left are the lands. I only have 2 fetch lands, which are Bountiful Landscape and Fabled Passage. I got Command Tower, Path of Ancestry, just a tapped tri-land that has cycling. All 3 Surveil lands. I got 7 islands, and then I have 6 mountains, and I got 9 forests. So that's going to be 23 basic lands, which is a ton of basics, but I have a lot of, basic mana ramp, so that's why I'm running so many basics. And then just a few random non-basics, which is Haven of the Spirit Dragon. If one of my dragons happens to go to the graveyard, I can sack this to return the dragon to my hand. Bossing Say, Earthbend Inevitability, Mystery's Village, if I'm worried about counterspells, and then Raging Ravine, just a red-green dual that is a manland. So, again, the deck is very straightforward. I'm just trying to ramp into the dragons and then cast some finishers, so to speak. And it has been a blast to play. I had a very fun sequence where I had cast Improvisation of Capstone. I tapped out to cast it. The first card I revealed was Quandrix the Proof, which then he has Cascade, so I cast him, cascaded into cascaded into a Time Walk. So, it's just crazy, because then I was able to untap, and the next Improvisation Capstone resolved, and then having Quandrix on the battlefield meant that everything in my hand was going to get even more value. So my opponent did scoop right after that, but that's understandable. So I don't anticipate making too many more changes. I might swap out a couple of those fringe instant or sorcery spells for maybe a more like targeted removal, because again, having to deal with some stacks pieces can be problematic, and I don't have a whole lot of that type of removal. I have Chomping Changeling as one, and then I have some bounce spells, but I'm not heavy on the interaction. I'm more kind of like just doing my own thing, ramping a bunch of lands, and then by the time I have a lot of lands out, hopefully I have some sort of a mana sink in order to not waste my turn and make sure that I'm still applying some pressure. So it is a very fun deck to play. So I would recommend building some sort of a deck similar in this regard. You don't have to use this particular commander, because I'm not really getting value from the lesson portion, but just having flashback in the command zone is such a problem for opponents, because if I have Time Warp in my graveyard, they always have to be worried about me taking another turn, which if you're playing a multiplayer format and you don't know if you're going to get to your next turn anyways. So if you have any suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I do appreciate you taking the time to watch this video of my deck tech for Elder Dragons with Iroh Grand Lotus.